Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Welcome to Sound Vibes. I'm the NAT, and this is Patty McD. Hey, hey, hey. Why are we in this voice today? I don't know. Adrian, how is your crunchy voice? Yeah, we're back with Adrian Langeveld in studio
It's
talking.
like I've walked into Ailstorm.
We're here with Adrian. We're talking drums again today. Yeah, I don't even know where to go from here. That took the
Sorry, you've been somewhat derailed.
Absolutely. Just completely. First it was the drywall, and then that's this. I don't know anymore. Guys, I think you guys just do this one on your own. I'm just gonna head out.
Oh, okay, fine. Be like so.
I'm out. So.
Right, well, hey, everybody. I guess it's what? Paddy McD and AD today.
That was absolutely lame. So terrible. We are not a dad podcast.
Yeah, well, you want to leave it to us. What do you think's going to happen?
This is what happens when I let them do their own thing. This is what happens. Speak to me, Patrick. How are you? I haven't asked you how you are since last week. Did I
I'm
even
good,
ask
man. I've had a good old cup of coffee.
You-
The insides are warm.
You feeling the gees
I'm
of
feeling
the rugby?
yes. Eh?
When did we win the rugby? I don't watch rugby. I just know. Today I found out we won some rugby thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah. I don't.
Adrian, you big on the rugby?
I am now. I'm married into a rugby-loving family.
Just-
I come from a footballing family.
Hey,
So,
that's better. I mean,
It's now,
So you've been swayed, you've been converted.
I have been.
Yeah.
oh well. It's not a sports podcast. Anyway, so
Depending on your perspective, because a lot of people treat music like sports.
Bro, drumming is
Extreme,
sport.
it's extreme drumming basically is sport. How many thousand BPM can I do?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, dude.
with your feet or your hands.
Dude,
Exactly.
that stuff is athletic. Have you seen how a drummer sweats?
Have you? You know what's crazy? I was having a chat with my stick dude in my project thing, and I just said to him, dude, you're gonna be so ripped after playing a back-to-back set. He's like, what are you talking about? I just sit there.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
Wow.
That came from the horse's mouth.
I feel like I want to die at the end of a set.
Yo.
No, I'm not kidding, dude. After a set, I feel, because you get into it and you lay into it. After I'm done with say it's a 2-hour show, my abs are absolutely wrecked. I'm like, why is my middle sore? It's like, because you're doing mini crunches every time you lay into the snare.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I've just done 1,000 crunches, you know, like in 2 hours type of thing.
But it's nuts because I swear, Jono now, my drummer, he looks like he's absolutely wrecked. But if you ask him after like an hour and a half,
He's chilled.
I'm like, could you do that again? Like, yeah, I could probably do that again. I'm like, Jesus, because I'm nonchalant, bro. Like
Young and fit.
young and fit. The dude's older than me.
It's also part, part of learning the technique, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you got guys. I mean, let's say Paul Bostaff from Slayer.
Yeah.
The guy is what, 52, 53 years old,
Yeah.
and now he's smashing it for hours every single night. And I watch some of those shows, and it's insane. I'm like, when I'm that age, I want to be able to play like that.
Yeah.
And it's still doable. And drummers, funnily enough, with the exception of a few, Lars Ulrich,
You don't speak it.
tend to get better the
Yeah.
older they are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not like a sportsman who, has
Deteriorates.
their sort of prime period and
Yeah.
then injuries and everything else. Drummers tend to actually get better the older they get with technique and everything
Explain
else.
Yeah,
Because your
yeah,
technique gets
yes,
better
yes.
and your feel and everything,
Yeah.
and it's not something that is entirely dependent on your physical capability.
Okay, interesting.
That's at least what I've found. I mean, you have
Yeah.
guys like Buddy Rich and these old dudes who are probably in their 70s, 80s, still doing the crazy stuff.
True,
And it's like,
eh?
there it is,
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a thing like a physical sport.
Yeah, well, I suppose like a physical sport, there's always the possibility of someone mooring into you and like breaking your freaking kneecap.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's just it. I mean,
unless you're playing in Slipknot, that's less likely as a drummer.
exactly. Well, I mean, then the other issues you got to watch with things like neck. So Tom Araya, neck busted up, can't headbang anymore. So the player's fine, just can't swing his body around, you know.
Well, I'm not even all that old, and I'm already in that situation.
So just watch for those things.
Yeah.
And then keep your hands fresh. But it's
All right. Well, speaking of where we left off last week on drums, we were talking about like the versatility of what one can do as a drummer, or not necessarily a drummer, but a percussionist. So if you've got a passion for hitting things, you don't necessarily need to go into like a whole, like drum kit. Although I think for most people that's the part that looks attractive. That's the part that looks fun.
Or for people like me who don't have coordination, we just start MMA, I guess.
Yeah. No, man, you need coordination.
MMA is
for MMA,
all about
bro.
timing too, eh?
Yeah,
that's also true. Maybe I'll just go hit some drywall.
with Danny.
Yeah, sure. I'll go do that right now.
Yeah.
That was so
Well, I heard the
interesting.
studio needed enlargement, judging by how the three of us are cooped up in here.
If you guys could see the coziness.
That's cozy.
It's intimate.
Well, when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So as a drumming person, we wanted to look a little bit at versatility, genre-wise too. I mean, we know that you've got a metal background, but we also know that you've done quite a lot of other things, like rock, almost like sort of more pop rock, I suppose one could call it.
I've done a bit of sort of African jazz cabaret too.
Oh, wow.
With Francois van Cook's sister. She's a cabaret artist.
Oh, wow.
Alicia Upstairs. She's based in the UK now. But I played on her album, so that was like my first time using brushes.
Sure.
So I was like, what are these? What do I do? And like, okay, well, you got to figure that out in the studio as you go, and then that's kind of what I had to do. So
how does the brush thing work?
With friction. So it's basically you can have the little, I don't know what you call them, the
bristles.
wires, the bristles going.
Yeah.
You can extend sort of how taut they are and how loose they are, and that creates a bit of a different sound depending on the friction. And it's the jazz and swing things.
I've always seen it, but I've never known like how the hell does that even work?
Yeah, because it's just rubbing
Because
across the
if
skin.
you're listening to like a Michael Bublé type thing, and you've got this,
Yeah.
That's you get that sound by kind of doing these little motions on the snare.
That you can practice at home.
It's like wax on, wax off. It's literally it's Miyagi, wax on, wax off. That's what you can do.
But I suppose that lends itself to the question of like, is drumming and percussion just about hitting things? Clearly it's not. It's about creating a rhythm.
It's creating a rhythm. It's also about being musical, following certain things. And here's the big thing. Everybody will tell you it's about creating space. It's what happens in the spaces in between that make things pulse, make things move.
Yeah.
It's when if we've got stuff going crazy all the time, there's no room for it to breathe.
Yes.
And you need to kind of guide that. So it may sound great if I put an insane, crazy Dream Theater style Mike Portnoy whatever fill in over here, but is it necessary to kind of keep the pulse and the groove and the vibe going in?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of times it's about having a bit of restraint too.
So if you play like a doom band, where you can take a nap between snare strokes.
You can, but you see, now that's the thing. If you had to go crazy, it would ruin the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So you got like a candle mass or whatever, and and you're waiting for the next one.
It's coming. Is it coming?
But it would ruin.
It
would ruin the atmosphere and the vibe. So.
And I also was. I was playing a festival way back, and I forget who it was, but it was a drummer for a sort of more like pop rock kind of band, and we were just chatting backstage, and he was telling me how their band manager would actually fine him, like, I don't know, $20 or something like that, every time he hit his second tom.
Wait, what?
No, I'm serious. So like, they were trying to train him to like whittle down his playing. To because the standard drum kit configuration, as I understand it, is a kick drum, a 12-inch tom, a 13-inch tom, and then the floor tom, which I think is like 16-inch. That's like a standard rock configuration. So now you got this guy playing pop rock, or he's joined a pop rock band, but he's got a more,
It's like a 4-piece setup. So it's like a Guns N' Roses setup. So it's a snare, it's a rack tom. There's no double kick. The idea is making it like groove and without getting overly complicated and needing all these extra things. I mean, I remember even Paul Blom doing from old VOD and everything else. having rehearsals and things with only having like one cymbal and like a ride and a hi-hat. And it and some guys do it with no toms. And it forces you to actually be either more creative or just be more sort of consistent and not go crazy with everything. So it teaches you restraint.
Because I think at the time when I was told this, I was like completely dumbfounded. I was like, what? Like I was actually almost like enraged. It's like, how dare he?
But
like,
if you look at it from
why do you put up with that?
If you look at it from a producer perspective, you go in a producer's role to try and make that thing sound as good as possible and to be as catchy as possible. If you've got a guy coming in and throwing in all these extra things which aren't really needed for that particular one, everybody will always tell you play for the song, play for the music. It's the golden rule that any veteran musician, that's all what they all say. So there's a reason why they do that.
Well, I think I've come to understand that much better since, although I must admit it took me a while, because I mean we were into extreme metal, and the more extreme, like the more you could cram in there, the better.
But you get those two things where like the more is more, and you get the prog guys,
where it's like less is more kind of approach.
I think one of a good example of that would be Matt Halpern. He also used to be a Mapex guy from the band Periphery, and he's on a very, very minimalistic setup, and he was playing some live street show. And the stuff that he was doing on just like 5-piece, it was nuts.
He doesn't even have. He switches between the two. At the time, he wasn't even using rack toms. He just has like a floor tom, snare and kick, and then that's him doing his thing. And you're just sitting there, and your head is bopping because that's what's happening. So, having that versatility, that kind of thing moves into several genres. So it's not just particularly metal or rock or whatever. That's the kind of thing where you need to sit back and you just need to groove. Great example, there's a gospel sort of drummer. He's like one of my faves. His name is Eric Moore. He's played with Suicidal Tendencies. He's played for like a church drummer. So the guy's got chops for days. I sit there, it's one of those things where you watch and you go, you know what, I'm just going to go burn all my drums because I will never ever be that good. He is playing for Eros Ramazzotti right now, which is like an Italian sort of world music artist. He's famous, and now he's doing his thing, and he's got to do what the boss tells him. So he's like, right, you need to play that, and you just need to groove that. There's no need for you to go berserk. You'll get your spot in the show where you can kind of do a bit of flair.
Flaunt your stuff a little.
But now he's got all these crazy chops, but it's not like he has to pull them out all the time. I mean, there's a video of him with Derek Roddy, who's like arguably one of like the world's greatest death metal drummers, and him jamming together, and it's insane watching the two of them trade off, like this gospel drummer versus this crazy blast beating thing.
So let's talk about then, what is it that actually makes a good drummer? I mean, I suppose this is something which you yourself as a, let's call it working drummer, or semi-professional drummer, we say semi only because you do other work too, but basically you are what a lot of people would regard as a pro, but because you can do what is required in that context. Can you tell us a bit about what, in your opinion, makes a good drummer? Because surely you've wrestled with this for many years in your development.
Yes, well, there's a couple of aspects to that. I would say that probably the most important aspect, less about your physical ability to play and everything else. I mean, that's definitely one of the plus points where you need to have all of that, but a lot of the time it's about how well you work with other people, and how adaptable you are to certain situations, and your general attitude. I mean, those are things which just for any job really are a big thing, because again, you're working with other people. You need to be able to deal with situations as they come up. So those softer skills are essential to being able to deal with that situation, because you can't approach it going in there hard-headed and go, well, that's the way it is, and that's, if you don't want it anyway, that's how it's played.
So it's almost like before you consider picking up drumsticks or any instrument for that matter, you got to go look in the mirror a little bit and figure out who that person is.
It's not going to be fun to play in a situation with people who you aren't really getting along with. I mean, that's the whole idea. You're trying to create something nice, and if there's tension and everything else in there, it's going to come out in that, and it's not going to be great.
So step one, attitude.
Attitude is a big thing. Then obviously your ability. You need to be able to obviously hold the beat and do the thing. And it's less about being crazy flashy. That's always nice. But as long as you can hold that beat and you can keep people sort of bopping and maintain that is what you want. You need to handle the pulse, you need to handle the groove well enough, and be as versatile as you can, so that you can walk into any musical situation and go, okay, cool, I got this. Because you can go, in my case in point, in a situation with Mark, we'll be playing something and he likes to throw curveballs at me. So you'll be jamming something, and the next minute you'll go, hey guys, I wanted to try something. Like, while we're on stage, we're playing to the audience. Yeah. And you'll be like, okay, Adrian, give me something in reggae. And I'm like, oh no. And now I've switched my brain, and next
paradigm shift.
Now I'm doing one drops, and he's busy doing like an Adele song, like with a reggae sort of feel to it, or whatever it is, that we're jamming. And it's like, okay, and then it's like, cool, now I can switch back to kind of the rock stuff.
But if you're
again.
playing in a pro context, they, like the people you're working with, they expect that you can do that. Like in their mind, it's probably not even a question.
True, but like for me, for instance, I'm not particularly confident in my ability to do that stuff to a level which I think is like, give me metal, give me rock, I'll do what I need to do. Or like, also knowing your limitations, I suppose, and going, okay, this is something I need to get better at. So the reggae example, next week I'm trying to get to do a skill exchange with Unity MZ. He's one of our local jazz drummers, and he's UCT, he's proper schooled and stuff, all the qualifications that I don't have.
Okay.
And he's like a full-time professional working drummer, and he's an amazing reggae and jazz player. So like, he's like, well, I want to learn a bit about double pedal stuff. So I'm like, he said, let's do a skill exchange. So I'm like, okay, cool. I want to get more solid on the reggae stuff so that we can, so that's something I want to do. So it's another tool in the toolbox for me to be able to use. So if I can use that if Chris turns around with Infanteria and goes, guys, I want to just do this interlude where there's, I don't know, a Latin breakdown over here. Then I can go, okay, cool, let's do it.
I got that in my toolbox.
So that's what you want to be able to have. So versatility is great. And then obviously it's nice to have a guy who's got all the gear for any situation. That's another reason why I think everybody's like, dude, can you play for my band? Because you've kind of got everything that we need, which I've built up over years.
It makes you attractive.
I've built up over years and years, and also like the endorsements with the companies that I have. I'm able to get that stuff because I've built my relationship and reputation with them over a number of years, and then I've got access to kind of going, okay, guys, I need this for a show because I need a solution to a particular problem, and then cool. So I have access to this sort of thing. So that helps. So your ability to kind of have that, social capital? If I could put it that way. So I have access to that. I have the gear. You have to have a decent attitude and, of course, be able to play the drums and work with it. And I think that is probably encompasses what you would need.
What makes a good drummer.
To be a good drummer,
But I think that also goes back towards attitude too. It's like someone with a proactive and positive and not cuck with people attitude can achieve those kinds of relationships.
Because you'll turn around and go, so I want you to play that. And you go, you know what? I can't right now. Give me a little bit of time. I will go away and I will learn how to do this. And that's the kind of thing.
Whereas some people might just throw up their hands and say, nah, that's not my style. Yeah. All right. So it's about being open-minded and willingness, being teachable, I guess.
Very much so. Because I will never learn it all. I sit there and I watch Senri Kawaguchi. She's this amazing drummer from Japan. She must be about 14 years old or something like that. And I sit there again, I'm going, what's the point? People like this exist. Why do I even bother? Because, I'll never reach the pinnacles of that, sort of level. But, it's everybody's different.
Yeah, but in the same light, there are pinnacles of other levels that you could achieve that I'm sure you're already halfway there, at least.
That's the thing is, if people are wanting to use you for work, then you must be doing something right.
I suppose at the end of the day, there is only one of that. What was her name you mentioned?
Senri Kawaguchi.
Yeah. So if everyone wants to work with her, well, it's they got to get in line. But in the meantime, they must look for other drummers.
Yeah. So it's all that stuff. Because I follow a lot of all the drummers on Instagram. I would see all these things and these are all the things that these guys are always putting up, but you need to kind of hustle, and you need to do this, and you need to be versatile, and you need to have a good attitude, and you need to, so you always hear the horror stories about people in studio being, oh, they're a horrible person to work with, it really wasn't a fun process, and you don't want that, because that kind of thing, but depending if you're wanting that sort of thing, but that kind of thing could come out on your recording. People don't realize how energy translates into that. So that's my
I can
2 cents on.
I can attest to that. I've been in studio a couple of times where there's been a very not so lack of vibe because someone was doing something they didn't want to do, and then next thing you know, you can hear it. Like it becomes audible.
And like probably the emphasis on something they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
you've got to be willing to do compromises. I mean, again, you're part of especially in a band situation, you're part of a collective. The other part is, again, goes part and parcel with it. Are you getting paid for your session?
Yeah.
Then it is now a case of, well, I am being employed now to do this thing. I need to do the best that I can for the wage that I'm earning for this and get the best possible result.
Talks, money speaks.
Oh, what? Come on. Listen to the money talk.
It really is.
All right, so these things which make up a good drummer, I think there's also a question which lurks in the back of the minds of a great deal of many people. And it's like the significance of, I mean, you said it, I forget if it was this episode or the previous, something about timekeeping or like being able to play on time.
Yes.
And
essential for a drummer.
Yeah, but because it's what the rest of us ride on. So, like, tell us about the whole vibe of playing with a metronome or a click or something like that. Is this a significant tool in your toolkit?
It is, now especially. Growing up, learning, playing, in my early years, metronome was not a thing. And it shows in my playing in certain parts. I can hear it listening back to things that I've done. That is horrible. And you realize that, I wish I'd known about this stuff. Because a metronome was something that I didn't even consider. Because it was just all about, I'm having fun and playing the drums, this is rad. And depending on your show and what you need, if we're playing a show and there's no need for me to be running, say I need samples or backing, which need to be on time, you'll play a show and then you'll get the energy and the adrenaline's popping, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's a couple of BPM faster.
Yeah, and then you notice your vocalist is running out of breath and you can't fit the lines.
But that's very much a give and take thing as well. So if the crowd is like, you can feel that energy, all of a sudden it's a bit faster, which is great. But then you also have to rein it in. If I know, okay, this track has now got stuff that I have to run a bit of backing on, then it's like, right, here comes the metronome. So especially with the work that I'm doing now with Mark, I run a lot of vocals in the background and stuff like that, but it's not a hit the track and let it run. I have to be on time because I have snippets. It's because I can't sing. I can't carry a tune in a bucket. So I actually run the backing vocals. So when I'm playing and I'm rolling into a chorus,
you hit a sample.
I'm hitting it and it's going, so it's got to be on time. Okay. So I now run click pretty much in my ears all the time. And even with like a Terrier thing, some of our new stuff there's a couple of vicious ones. And you don't want to overdo it because the guys are all going to turn around and going to murder you. So I need guys, just slow the horse down. Let's keep it at this pace. And because I'm also probably going to be running some cool electronic style things in between for samples and things, it needs the timing. But it's essential because it helps. My playing and timing as a drummer has gotten so much better after using it, in recent years now. So a lot of the guys now pretty much start out with it. I mean, the resources that they have on YouTube, and you always see people telling you click is important. But, and here comes the but part, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be a machine, because you need to have that little bit of human swing. Because otherwise it's just going to sound like Rammstein, and then, which is
lack on a dance floor.
Which is lack on a dance floor. But you know what I mean? You don't want to be... The bar in terms of timing and technicality for, at least in a metal context these days, is madness. So, and it's almost not human. And you go like, this sounds like a machine. There's no life, there's no feeling there, it almost feels like. So it's getting the balance right. So you want to have a little bit of your swing, but there's enough for you to be on time, but still have that little bit of something about it. Because if it's completely quantized to death, then what's the point? You might as well just go in, program the drums anyway, and leave it lifeless. What you want is that energy and that slight bit of nuance that you get either side of that beat. Because I mean, we're not machines; we're human. We're slightly.
So
imperfect.
you use the click as a sort of a reference, and
look, it's essential, but you got to be you got to find that line between the groove and the.
I reckon. Doing an episode on like programmed versus not programmed drums would be quite interesting.
Because I mean you've touched on a very important point there, because if we talk about how drums are being recorded and
the digital
delivered
world.
for albums and stuff like that, it's like now the whole click and programmed and performed and blah blah blah, it's like quite a thing that could be vastly unpacked.
It can be, and
discussed.
I have like a particular opinion sort of on that, and I'll be happy to share that.
Yeah.
Well, that means we're going to pin you down for another episode.
We'll have you back, yeah.
Damn it, I fell for it again.
Oh no. Watch every show.
now.
It's like a
Yeah,
Scooby-Doo episode. Let's see who this villain is. Oh, it was you.
Anyway, guys, thank you, Adrian, again so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we gotta have him back. We just gotta have him back. So we'll have him back next episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to Sound Vibes. Don't forget to check out Sound Vibes and Blended podcasts, where all podcasts are available. And Patty. Next radio for you.
Next radio.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to us ramble on about all things music and sound here on Sound Vibes, produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.